Good morning. We begin our new day with this song, Open the Window by Elise Witt. Please make sure your microphone is muted and join me in singing along enthusiastically. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Gwinnett. My name is Jan Taddeo, and it is my great joy and a distinct privilege to serve our faith as the minister of this congregation. It's so good we can be together this morning in any way possible. If you have a chalice at home to light with me in a few minutes or with us, please have it ready. We arrive from many places and many life experiences as we gather to recall our true selves, reflect on the meaning of our lives, and explore questions of ultimacy together. We are people who are new to Unitarian Universalism and people who are lifelong Unitarian Universalist. We are people of many religious beliefs and spiritual practices. We affirm and promote the responsible search for truth and meaning. We are people of many genders, sexualities, ethnicities, origins, ages, shapes, sizes, and expressions of our true selves. We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all people. We are people of all ages and family structures, and we each bring gifts, talents, and passions that serve to affirm and promote communities with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We are people of covenant who engage with one another in ways that promote and affirm equity and compassion in human relations. We are people who care deeply for our planet and understand we are inextricably and profoundly connected with the web of all existence. We are people who welcome all who are seeking a community of faith that welcomes your whole self, all that you were, all that you are, and all that you yearn to be. And you are just where you should be, in a room full of compassionate and thoughtful Unitarian Universalists ready to meet you where you are. You are welcome here. You are home. If you are a newcomer this morning, we welcome you and hope you will indeed find your spiritual home here with us. We are becoming a radically welcoming sanctuary in a green space. We foster spiritual growth as we joyfully nurture connections and community within our walls and beyond. If this is your first time here with us, I encourage you to join us several times to experience the full flavor of this congregation and this faith tradition. Come, be curious, courageous, and compassionate with us. And now I invite us all to take a deep breath, a deep cleansing breath, and just breathe into this moment and this precious time that we've set aside to be together. And now, as sound moves through us and around us, may we be reminded how profoundly and inextricably interdependent we are with one another, with all life on this planet and all the stars in the cosmos. We are one. Our opening words this morning are from the Reverend Marianne Hashton Cotter. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom, our protection, from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this abode, may we find comfort and courage. Here, may our sight become vision, to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be. And now, our ministerial intern, David, I just lost your last name, Morgan, David Morgan, will light our chalice to these words from Reverend Scott Taylor. May this flame cast its light toward the coming days, reminding us that the future is not simply a place we are going, but a place we are creating. The path of new possibilities will not be found, but made. A new world is waiting to be built. May our time together light the way. And now I want to tell you a story. The story is called The Hardest Word. You can see a picture on the screen there, by Jacqueline Jules. A long, long time ago, the world had many large and fabulous creatures. One of those creatures was a gigantic yellow bird with dark red wings and a purple forehead. He was called the Ziz. The Ziz was so huge that when he spread out his wings, he blocked the sun, as if he were a dark rain cloud. Every time he flew over a town, all the mothers would call to their children, "Come inside quickly before it rains." This made the big Ziz sad. He loved children and didn't want to spoil their playtime. So the Ziz started flying around at night when no one would notice that he made the sky dark with his gigantic wings. That worked fine for a while, but then one night, the big Ziz flew too high and he bumped into a star. Sizzle, snap, bang! The star fell out of the sky and down to earth, and it burned a big hole in the ground. The next morning, when the Ziz saw the big hole, he was worried. "What can I do to cover this hole?" he asked himself. He thought about it for a while and came up with an idea. He stretched out his huge wings and went back up into the sky. This time he knocked down a cloud. Flop! The cloud was full of rain and it filled the big hole with water. Now the big hole was a lovely pond, perfect for swimming. All the children came running to the pond, screaming with delight. It was a hot, sunny day, and they had a wonderful time splashing and playing the water. "That mistake is all fixed," the Ziz smiled. One day, however, the Ziz made a mistake he could not fix. It was the week before Yom Kippur. He was flying along, not watching where he was going, and he flew smack into the tallest pine tree in the world. Boom! The tree fell over and knocked over another tree, and that tree knocked down another tree, and that tree fell on the vegetable garden behind the synagogue. Smash, squash, oops. Oh no, the Ziz covered his eyes with his big wings. Not the vegetable garden, it belongs to the children. The Ziz uncovered his eyes to look at the damage. The tomatoes, the corn, the pumpkins, the beans, the gourds, the squash, all the vegetables the children had worked so hard to plant were smashed to bits. "I can't knock down a cloud and fix this," the Ziz cried. The Ziz flew home and sat in his own garden to think. He had watched the children plant their vegetable garden. Every year they harvested the fruits to decorate their sukkah. What would the children do this year? The Ziz spread out his big wings and flew off to have a chat with God. The Ziz had a special place where he liked to talk to God. It was Mount Sinai. Pretty good place to talk to God. The Ziz was so huge that when he stood on Mount Sinai, his purple feathered head reached right up into heaven. "What have you done this time?" God asked as soon as he saw the Ziz. This was not the first time Ziz had come to Mount Sinai after making a mistake. "Well, I knocked over a big tree. It knocked over another tree. That tree smashed a vegetable garden." "The children's garden?" God questioned. "Yes," the Ziz admitted, hanging his head. "Ugh, that's a problem," God said. "I can't knock down a cloud and make this better." "No, you can't," God agreed. "What should I do?" "Well, I want you to do something for me," God said. Anything, the Ziz promised. "I want you to search the earth and bring back the hardest word." "The hardest word?" the Ziz questioned. "Yes," God answered. "Now go." The Ziz stretched his big wings and went off to search. He flew over mountains. He flew over trees. He flew over valleys. He flew over seas. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird. Flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. After searching the whole day, the Ziz stopped to rest at the edge of a forest. In a little house nearby, he heard a mother and child arguing. "I don't want to go to bed," the little boy said. Now, I know none of our children ever do that. "You need your rest," the mother said. "I'm not tired," the little boy cried. "Good night," the mother said firmly, closing the door. "That's it!" The Ziz flapped his wings. "The hardest word, I found it." Ziz flew as fast as he could to Mount Sinai. With great excitement, he put his bird feet down on the top and poked his purple feathered head up into heaven. I found it, I found it, I found the hardest word. What is it? God asked. It's good night. Every child hates that word. Ziz did a dance right on top of Mount Sinai. He loved being right. Good night is a hard word for children, God said. I knew it, Ziz danced. But there is another word, even harder, God said. There is. Ziz slumped over, disappointed. There is, he declared. Go and find it. So the Ziz spread out his mighty wings and went off to search, and he flew over mountains, and he flew over trees, and he flew over valleys, and he flew over seas, and said, flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird, flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. And after searching all day, Ziz stopped at a big feast on the grounds of a castle. He listened. With so many people talking, he felt sure someone would say the hardest word. I'm hungry, a little girl said to her mother. May I have some biscotti, please? The mother smiled. Oh, you want spaghetti. That's it, Ziz realized. I've got it now. He spread out his great big wings, flew back to Mount Sinai, planted his bird feet on the mountaintop, poked his purple feathered head into the heavens, and out, I know the hardest word. And God said, what is it? It's spaghetti. Ziz hopped up and down on one foot. Standing still was hard, especially when he was excited. And God said, yes, spaghetti is a hard word to say. Didn't I tell you? Zip hopped some more. But there is another word that's even harder, God said. And Ziz was disappointed. And God said, go out and find it. The Ziz stretched his big wings and went out to search. He flew over mountains, he flew over trees, he flew over valleys, he flew over seas. Flap, flap, I'm the biggest bird, flap, flap, searching for the hardest word. The Ziz searched for 3 more days. He brought back lots of words to Mount Sinai. Words like rock, it's pretty hard. Rhinoceros, ridiculous, and Rumpelstiltskin. Each time, God sent the Ziz back out to find another word. By the evening of Yom Kippur, the Ziz had brought over 100 words to Mount Sinai. God had not accepted any of them. The Ziz was discouraged. He had tried and tried. He flew back to Mount Sinai to have one more discussion with God. Well, what word did you bring me this time? God asked. No word, the Ziz said quietly. No word? God asked. No, I've come to say I'm sorry. I can't find the hardest word. You can't? God asked. Nope. I'm sorry. You're sorry? God asked. Yes. Ziz nodded his big purple head. I'm sorry. Good job, God said. You found the hardest word. I did? Now the Ziz was very confused. Yes, God said, the hardest word is sorry. While all the other words you brought me were hard, sorry is the hardest. I always say I'm sorry on Yom Kippur, the Ziz said. Well, you should say it other times too, God answered. Like when I smashed the garden, Ziz asked. That's right, God said. The Ziz thanked God and pulled his purple feathered head out of heaven. Then he spread out his great big wings and flew back to the children's garden. On the way, he stopped at his own garden and gathered a big basket of fruits and vegetables for the children. It was time to say the hardest word. Thanks for listening to that story. Oh gosh, I just realized I didn't open the Wonder Box. That's so crazy. Let's see what's in the Wonder Box, shall we? Ah, there's some words in here. Let's see what words we have. I bet you're going to guess. There's the hardest word, I'm sorry. And the next hardest word that they didn't talk about, but I think is pretty hard too. And that is, I forgive you. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. Now let us sing together, Love Knocks and Waits for Us to Hear by Daniel C. Damon.
This reading is the introduction to Chapter 6 of UU Minister Jake Morrell's new book, The Christian Art of Forgiveness. This chapter is titled Community. It begins with a quote from author and activist Bell Hooks. Forgiveness and compassion are always linked. How do we hold people accountable for wrongdoing and yet at the same time remain in touch with their humanity enough to believe in their capacity to be transformed? Community. In the late 1980s, the sociologist Ray Oldenburg argued for the importance of third places in society. If the first place a person spends their life is at home, and the second place is at work, a third place is out in the world. Congregations, cafes, clubs, pubs, and corner stores. Places where people encounter one another and form community. Oldenburg said these places were important for fostering the kind of civic relations and understanding that sustains civil society. But in the year 2000, another sociologist, Robert Putnam, published the book called Bowling Alone, which reported the fraying of these kinds of relationships and community experiences. Whether practicing faith in a congregation, fulfilling a sense of service through volunteering, or pursuing an avocation like singing in a community chorus, being part of community is important to democracy and society, just as Ray Oldenburg said. It also brings richness and purpose to life, to feel part of something larger. The relationships made in community are precious. They can also be messy. You can fall out with a neighbor, you can get tense with someone at church, someone in your book group can hurt your feelings to the point where you're not sure if you want to go back. When those relationships fray, you can understand why Robert Putnam observed the steady erosion of community life in this country. Maybe it's easier to just stay at home, to not risk getting hurt. But even as you consider withdrawing and hiding out back at home, you know how much these third places have meant to you. The Christian faith, by and large, is not intended as a solitary practice. Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, Jesus says in the Gospel of Matthew 1:18-20, I am there among them. By faith and evolutionarily, you are wired for life in community. You aren't meant to go it alone. So if you're going to stick it out, if you're going to commit to life in community, you're going to need to learn to practice forgiveness. The people we'll meet out there in the world are imperfect, and so are we.
Tomorrow at sunset, Rosh Hashanah begins. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. It's a very sacred time. It's a very important time. It's not like our secular New Year where we have loud parties and shoot off fireworks and get crazy and drunk and whatever. It's 10 days of deep introspection, self-evaluation, prayer, accounting of one's life, an inventory of the soul. It's a time for reflecting on the harms that we've caused to others, whether it was intentional or not. Usually not. It had an impact that was harmful. It's a time for us to reflect on how well we're living into our own moral and ethical code. But for the Jewish people, it's about living into God's laws. And so there's 2 layers to this reflection time. It's looking deeply at how have I held to the divine laws of life, of the world, of the universe, in my own language here, but also how have I been living into my relationships? How have those been going? Where have I missed the mark? So this starts Monday at sunset and goes through Wednesday at nightfall as the official sort of celebration or honoring and the rituals that take place in community around Rosh Hashanah and the New Year. But during those 10 days, there's all this reflection and there might be some conversations, and then it culminates to Wednesday, September 15th this year, is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. This is another 25 hours of ritual and prayer, fasting, avoiding pleasures, and really diving deep into these concepts of forgiveness, of apology, of seeking the forgiveness of God, seeking the forgiveness of those we've harmed. And funny thing about the Jewish faith is that you can't just bypass that interpersonal thing. You can't just say, well, I'll just go talk to God about the thing I did that hurt so-and-so. Maybe I hurt Joey, whoever Joey is, and I just really can't face Joey. I can't go and talk to him, and so I just go talk to God. But you know what? God isn't going to triangulate your mess. I love this part. God's going to say, no, you need to go back to Joey and work that out, and then you come back to me after Joey has forgiven you. And on the last night of Yom Kippur, there's the Kol Nidre prayer. And in this prayer, the language is, we have transgressed. We have transgressed. This is a communal responsibility to be in right relationship with one another and with that which we understand as larger than ourselves or the holy or God. In Judaism, there's no original sin. We also, in Judaism, they have no one who died for their sins. Rather than sin, they have a concept of missing the mark. Imagine throwing darts at a target and you're trying to hit that middle mark. And sometimes we miss the mark in what we're trying to do in the world and the relationships we have. These transgressions of missing the mark are ours alone. Each of us must stand before God, or for me, stand in front of the mirror and learn to forgive ourselves and one another. Some of you know that I had a very difficult situation with my father. I was born on his birthday, so we were best buddies for a very long time. Well into my adulthood, we were best buddies. And I had been in complete denial about the abuse that he perpetrated on his family. I just couldn't see that. I could only see how wonderful he was. And then when I was around 32 or so, I started seeing, oh, I've been in denial. I did not see all the harm he caused, not just to me and to my siblings, but to so many others. And I wrote him a letter. We'd been very close. I mean, we talked a couple times a week, and I wrote him a letter and said, we're not going to talk again until you apologize. And he couldn't do it. And he died 2 years later, having not apologized. So then I was left to figure out, how do I move to a place of forgiveness, of letting go of this, because it had a lot of power over me. Once I'd accepted that status as victim, as abused, then I had the work to do to shift my story, to shift to a place of forgiveness. And I did that in a few ways. One, I learned more about my father and his upbringing. I learned about the abuse that he had experienced in his childhood. I learned that he was a complicated person, just like all of us, where he did a lot of things that were really, really good, and he did some things that were really, really bad. And that's who he was. So I was either going to accept my father as he was and let go of this power he still had over me to be a victim, or I was going to live into that forever. And I chose to let go. And I did a very meaningful ritual to really bring that into every cell of my body. So I'm in very good relationship with that whole situation and with my father now. Another incident is where I caused harm to someone I love very much, who was very close to me many, 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 many years ago when I was a young adult. And that person worked hard to forgive me and did forgive me. We had conversations, we worked through it, we even saw a therapist together, we got through that. And they forgave me, but I still couldn't forgive myself. I struggled so hard to forgive myself for the harm I had caused this person I love. And that person told me, you're not forgiving yourself completely spoils my forgiveness of you. It just disregards that I have forgiven you. Like that's nothing. You have to forgive yourself in order for my forgiveness to be fully complete. And so we got there. We did get there. So this, Jake Morrell's words about the third place, actually I guess those come from Bowling Alone, but that Jake mentioned them in the reading, of a third place. It's in that third place that we learn how to be in community for the common good. It's a place for us to really model and practice and be a part of the answer to so much conflict and derision and division in our country and in our communities and in our families. Here we can practice what it means to really live into the promises that we've made. Our covenant teaches us how to do that. Our congregational covenant tells us exactly what promises we're making to stay in right relationship. It holds us together. It gives us an ideal for how we'll be together. But it also requires the hard work of being in conversation when things aren't going right. One of the things that was said in here is about this learning how to be in community is vital to democracy, and that democracy is more than voting. Democracy is about talking. It's about listening. It's about hearing one another. It's about sharing ideas and coming together to find solutions. And then when you vote, you already know where you're going. You already know the vote's going to come out right. And we do that really well in this congregation. We have wonderful discussions in our town hall meetings. So by the time we get to a congregational meeting, we've worked through the questions, we've worked through the angst, we've worked through the challenges. And if we haven't, then we're not ready to vote. And I bring that in here because that is such a place that often becomes a hot spot for challenging relationships, is when we get into those choices that a community makes about their building and grounds, about the direction of their programs, about their vision, about all the things that we do together. There's so many different opinions and ideas about how we do that. And it's easy to hurt one another's feelings in that process or to cause harm in that process. So seeking forgiveness really requires that conversation. It requires insight and clarity, and it needs you to be aware of yourself. It requires change so that you know over time, oh, I'm doing that again. And you can catch yourself and stop. Because sometimes these are patterns that are so deeply ingrained in us. Oh, I'm just going to call this person out and blah, 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 whatever. But sometimes we have to say that hardest word, I'm sorry. And sometimes we have to say the second hardest words, I forgive you. And then we are at one. When we can truly allow those things that separate us to be resolved and to drift away, we become closer, we become more connected. We see our connection, we are aware of our connection. When we can really let go and accept apologies, we can move forward in our relationships. So how does this open us up to possibility, this month's theme of embracing possibility? Well, when you've cleared something away, there's space. When you have cleared away being a victim or cleared away being one who harms someone, there is space for possibility. There is space to do something else. We are renewed. We are energized. We are lighter. We are lighter in our spirit, lighter in our outlook. We can see the world and the people around us as they are, and we can move to thriver, and we can have other people stop having so much power over our emotions and over our actions. Because we are ultimately dependent. We need one another to create the circle of love that wide, wide circle of love that we declare no one is outside that circle of love. And yet, if we don't learn how to forgive and ask for forgiveness, to say I'm sorry, then we continue to be more divided, segregated, and isolated, less engaged, less inspired, less creative. Our closing song today by Fred Kahn, and it has the words that I want to leave you with now. Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow, forgiven and forgiving. Make it wider still, and will that human bonds remain unbroken. May it be so. I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer and reflection and intention. And this prayer is one that has space in it for thought. So you'll see there's going to be some long pauses. So just let you know that. It's called As a New Year Begins. And I offer this not just for Rosh Hashanah, but because we are beginning a new program year. Next week is our ingathering, and we'll begin our new program year officially. So as a new year begins. Great Spirit of life, as a new year begins, we turn inward to reflect about the state of our lives. What lessons have we learned in the past year, and which new ones now call us forward? What lessons have we learned in the past year, and which new ones now call us forward? To whom do we still owe an apology or expression of thanks? To whom do we still owe an apology or expression of thanks? With whom must we draw fresh boundaries? With whom must we draw fresh boundaries? As we pause from our regular rhythms of rush, 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 we open ourselves to new perspectives and possibilities. We give thanks for these moments and for the wisdom they afford us. May they help bring us together in the sacred dynamics of life so that we, as individuals and as members of this community, might reach our full potential. As we step across this threshold, let this new year be a year of greater awe and gratitude, of deeper kindness and acceptance, and more courageous acts of conviction. For a kinder, more equitable, and sustainable world is not only possible, she is on her way. And in the quietness of this sacred community, we can ever hear her breathing. Amen. And now we'll sing together, "We Begin Again in Love" by Robert Eller Isaacs and Les Clean. And this is a responsive hymn. Your response is, "We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love." And on the screen, you will see the narrator's words and then your words. And it will begin now. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Our congregation is committed to creating a more compassionate world. To this end, each quarter we split our plate collection with an organization nominated by people in the congregation and selected by our Giveaway the Plate committee. Our third quarter plate recipient is Special Needs and Treats, a Gwinnett-based nonprofit organization which on the outside looks like a bakery, but it also provides job training and employment to special needs adults. They bake cookies and cakes and other sweet treats, and by doing so, they develop social skills and confidence. The organization sells to the public, but it also provides baked goods to homeless shelters, food pantries, foster care systems, and other support groups. It also gives free birthday cakes to special needs individuals in Gwinnett County. Our plate contributions also support the shared ministry of this congregation. So I ask that you please give generously to support the work of this important ministry in our wider community, as well as the vision and mission of our congregation. As we listen to a recording of our pianist Brian Bishop playing Maple Leaf Rag by Scott Joplin, you will see on the screen ways to contribute to our offering via PayPal, Venmo, or by mailing a check payable to UUCG to the address shown. If you are worshiping with us for the first time, your presence here today is a generous gift to this community. You may choose to let the plate pass. The offering will now be most gratefully received. May the generous gifts received this week move us towards realizing our vision of a more connected and compassionate world. And I want to take a moment to offer some gratitude for individuals in the congregation, but also to the collective congregation. We are nearly 3/4 of the way through this year, and we are doing really well, pretty well financially, thanks to the very generous contributions so many of our members and friends and visitors have made to support our operating fund. So I want to just really thank you for your generous support for the congregation, both financially, energetically, with your time, with your love, with all that you give to keep this community whole and growing in both depth and breadth and in all ways. Thank you. Also very grateful for our worship associate, David Morgan, for assisting with the service today. David is coming in as our new kind of two roles as student minister from Candler Theological Seminary, but he will also be serving as our ministerial intern part-time for 2 years, from mid-August to mid-June. We will have a special ceremony next Sunday to enter into covenant with him as his teaching congregation. Very grateful to Barbara Stanke for serving as our Zoom manager 3 Sundays in a row now. Thank you, Barbara. We need more Zoom managers. If you are very comfortable using Zoom, we need about 2 or 3 more people to join our team. So please let me know if you are willing. Also grateful to Russ Taddeo and Dan Kelly for managing video and sound this morning. Thank you, guys. And now is the time for our call to connection. These are connections within our congregation and beyond. If you are new to our congregation, I invite you to sign up for our weekly e-news and our monthly newsletter and check our website for activities coming up so that you can be engaged. There is a registration button on that page so you can join in on our activities. If you want to watch past service, if you are also new or if you're a seasoned member, we are having another starting point program. It's an introduction to Unitarian Universalist journey. It's a really fabulous program to explore the path of Unitarian Universalism for both newcomers and seasoned members. We were going to start today, but we need a few more people. We only have, I think, 3 right now. We really want to have at least 8 people. So this is not just for newcomers, it's also for seasoned members and friends of the congregation. So you can get to make connections while also renewing your love for Unitarian Universalism and for the congregation, and maybe learning some things about the congregation you don't know, because things always change, and we go over a lot of stuff in this program. So it's 4 Sundays, every other Sunday, starting on September 19th, and it'll be an hour and a half from 2 o'clock to 3:30. And then if you want to watch past services, they're up on our YouTube channel. Next Sunday is our water ceremony. So I'm inviting you to drop water off next Saturday between 3:30 and 4:30. I'll be here to receive your water, and then we'll use that water in the ceremony on Sunday. So your water should represent some sacred place in your life or a holy moment you've had in this past year. It's not just about where you've traveled to, especially during the time of pandemic. There may not have been that much traveling. So just a sacred place and a holy moment. Food collection is today from 2 to 4. Bring it by here. There'll be people out in the parking lot to receive your goods for the Lawrenceville Cooperative Ministries. Thank you for doing that. World Cleanup Day is a thing. I just found out it's September 18th, and we are going to participate. We are on the 18th from 9 to 11. We'll be at Bethesda Park doing a cleanup, and we will have special vests from the county, and they are really excited about our taking this on as a project for World Cleanup Day. Turning Sun School is going to be telling all of their families about it, and so we expect some of them will come, and we'll have it up on our marquee and invite the whole neighborhood to come and clean up Bethesda Park with us. So please put that on your calendar and plan to be with us on September 18th from 9 to 11 doing a park cleanup. And Christiana McQuain, our coordinator of family ministries, is going to offer a special program next Saturday on the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks in New York and Washington. And it's a movie called Divided We Fall that did come out a little bit ago, but there's updated, and they have a new discussion guide for the 20th anniversary. So she'll be holding that from 1 to 3 on Zoom. So look for information about that this week for how to connect with that. Fall covenant groups start tomorrow night, and we need more people. So we've never really had a problem filling our covenant groups. So it must be that the deadline's now. So sign up today, please. We have 7 openings for Monday night. We have 5 openings for Wednesday, and Thursday morning is full. We may ask if the Wednesday night folks can go to Monday night if we can't fill these groups. So we're hoping we can fill them. I think we can. These are really, really great ways to go deeper into your search for truth and meaning, to build meaningful connections with people in the congregation, and to just learn more about yourself too. So please sign up. Bob Patrick and Barbara Stanke are offering Working on Whiteness, and we are getting a lot of signups for this. It's very exciting. Starts September 18th. It's on Saturdays for 2 hours from September to April. So I hope that that's filling up, and it'll be a great program. Thank you. Religious Exploration starts next Sunday. We have our 10 o'clock program for adults and teens next Sunday, and we have our elementary age, tweens, whatever group meets at 12:30 after the service. We need everyone to register. We ask people to register every year, both adults, teens, kids. Everybody needs to register for the program so that we make sure that we have your information. You get notifications about supplies and things like that. So please sign up. Many ways to connect during the week on a regular basis. So there's GUST on second Mondays, which is Gwinnett Understanding Secular Truths. Covenant Choir on Tuesday nights is meeting on Zoom to check in and work on maybe some virtual projects again. Women's Spirituality on second Fridays. Exploring Tarot with Sherry every Sunday at 5. And Yarns from the Heart, first and third Wednesdays, so that's this week, and Belief Exploration next week on the second Sunday. And just one more reminder, bring water on Saturday between 3:30 and 4:30. We'll also be doing our bridging ceremony, so those of you who have young people who have moved up in some level in their milestones will be acknowledged, so Christiana will be contacting you about that, and we're going to covenant with David, and we're going to have a really fabulous service. So looking forward to it. And now our pastoral care team, still here for you. Please, they are making some proactive calls to people they know need some support, but it's really great if you call them, and if you are really needing to talk with someone, they're there for you 24/7. And now please join me, rise in spirit, as we say together the words we say as we extinguish our chalice, followed by Break Not the Circle by Fred Kahn and Thomas Benjamin. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Before I share our closing words, I want to go back and just name that Reverend Kate Lohr was the author of the pastoral prayer that I offered. It's important that I give her credit here. And these closing words come from Reverend Cynthia Landrum: be true, be well, be loving. We leave this gathered community. We love this gathered community too. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other. Our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues. Until we are together again, friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving. Our service has ended, and now our service to one another and our wider communities begins. Do be well, beloveds. I love you so much. Keep your masks up. See you next Sunday.